Hello, sleepy soul. The night is quiet, the world is asleep, and something is waiting in the dark. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and write your country and current time in the comments. Now listen carefully. I used to think the worst kind of roommate was someone who left dirty dishes in the sink or played music too loud at midnight. I was wrong. The worst kind is the one who is quiet, polite, clean. The kind who never gives you a reason to complain until you realize the reason you feel uncomfortable around them has nothing to do with noise or mess. It has to do with the fact that they are always awake. My name is Ethan. I was 21 when this happened, studying graphic design at a small college in Pennsylvania. I wasn't rich, and my parents could only help so much, so when I found a cheap apartment 10 minutes from campus, I grabbed it before anyone else could. The rent was suspiciously low, but the place looked fine. 2 bedrooms, old wooden floors, a tiny kitchen, thin windows that rattled when trucks passed outside. It had that stale, dusty smell old apartments get, but I told myself I could fix that with candles and an open window. The only catch was that I'd be sharing it with another guy. His name was Daniel. He was already living there when I moved in. He was probably mid-20s, tall, pale, with dark hair that always looked slightly damp, even when it wasn't raining. He shook my hand at the door and said, "I'm quiet. I keep to myself. You won't even know I'm here." At the time, that sounded perfect. For the first week, Daniel was exactly what he promised. He cleaned up after himself. He didn't touch my food. He never had friends over. He spoke softly, almost carefully, like he was afraid of disturbing the air. But there was one thing I noticed almost immediately. His bedroom light never turned off. At first, I thought he was just a night owl. I stayed up late too, especially when deadlines came around. But no matter when I went to the bathroom, 2 in the morning, for in the morning, sunrise, the thin line under Daniel's door was always glowing. A flat yellow strip of light. Every night. All night. After a few days, I joked about it while we were both in the kitchen. He was standing by the counter, stirring instant coffee even though it was almost midnight. "Do you ever sleep?" I asked. Daniel stopped stirring. It was only for a second, but I saw it. His hand froze. His shoulders stiffened. Then he smiled. Not much. I laughed because I thought he was joking. He didn't laugh back. That should have been the first warning I took seriously. But when you're young and broke, you explain things away. Maybe he had insomnia. Maybe anxiety. Maybe he worked online. I didn't want to make it weird. Then came the first night I woke up at 3:17 a.m. I remember the time because my phone was face up on my mattress, glowing in the dark. 3:17. I didn't know what woke me at first. My room was quiet except for the soft hum of the radiator and a car passing somewhere outside. I lay there for a few seconds, staring at the ceiling, feeling that strange alertness you get when your body hears something before your brain understands it. Then I heard whispering. It was coming from the kitchen. I sat up slowly. The whispering was faint, not loud enough to make out words, but steady, like someone talking through clenched teeth. I opened my bedroom door just a crack. Daniel was standing in the kitchen. He had his back to me. The overhead light was off, but the yellow glow from his bedroom spilled down the hallway, enough for me to see him facing the wall beside the fridge. His hands hung at his sides. His head was tilted slightly forward, and he was whispering, not on the phone, not to himself in the normal way people mumble. He sounded like he was answering someone. I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the hallway made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. "Daniel," I said. He stopped. The apartment went so quiet I could hear my own breathing. Then he turned his head, just enough for me to see one eye over his shoulder. "You'll start hearing them soon," he said. I didn't answer. I closed my door and locked it, even though the lock was cheap and useless. The next morning, he acted normal. He was making toast when I came out, wearing the same gray sweatshirt from the night before. I tried to bring it up casually. "Hey, were you okay last night?" He looked at me like he had no idea what I meant. "At 3? I said. "You were in the kitchen." He buttered his toast very slowly. "I wouldn't worry about it. That was it. No explanation. After that, I started sleeping with headphones on. It helped for maybe 2 nights. Then I woke up again at exactly 3:17. This time, I didn't hear whispering from the kitchen. I heard it from the wall beside my bed. A dry, papery sound. At first, I thought it was pipes. Old buildings make noises. They knock, hiss, groan. But this was different. It had rhythm, pauses, tiny shifts in tone. I pressed my ear to the wall like an idiot. The whispering stopped. Then something tapped from inside. Once, right beside my ear. I stumbled backward so fast I nearly tripped over my laundry basket. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next few days were bad. I missed classes. I drank too much coffee. I started watching Daniel without meaning to. He never seemed tired. That was what bothered me most. No dark circles. No yawning. No slow blinks. He moved through the apartment with this calm, empty patience. Like sleep was something other people did. One afternoon, while Daniel was out, I checked the wall between my room and the hallway. I didn't know what I expected to find. A vent. A hole. Some stupid explanation. Instead, I found scratches near the baseboard. Tiny marks in the paint. Not random. They looked like counting marks. Rows and rows of them, almost hidden behind my bed. That night, I called my older sister, Megan. I tried to tell it like a funny, creepy roommate story, but halfway through, my voice started shaking. "Ethan," she said, "you need to leave." "I can't just leave. I signed a lease. Then stay with a friend for a few nights." I told her I'd think about it. I didn't. That was my mistake. The worst night happened during a thunderstorm. Rain hit the windows hard enough to blur the streetlights outside. I was in bed with every light in my room on, pretending to work on a project. At 3:16, my phone screen lit up. I stared at it. The minute changed. 3:17. The apartment went silent. No radiator. No rain. No traffic. Just silence. Then my doorknob turned. Slowly. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked against the lock, and I realized I was completely alone in that room with someone standing inches away on the other side. "Ethan," Daniel whispered. I couldn't move. "Open the door." I grabbed my phone and texted Megan with shaking hands. "Call police." Then Daniel said something that made my skin go cold. "They don't like when you listen through the walls." I backed away from the door. The knob turned again. Once. Twice. Then the whispering started. Not from Daniel. From behind me. Inside the wall. Dozens of voices layered together, soft and eager. I don't remember deciding to run. I just remember moving. I shoved open my window, climbed onto the fire escape in the rain, and nearly slipped on the metal stairs. Daniel pounded on my door from inside. Not screaming. Not angry. Laughing. I ran down 3 flights barefoot and didn't stop until I reached the corner store 2 blocks away. The police found Daniel sitting at the kitchen table. He told them I was stressed from school. He was calm, polite, cooperative. They said there was no sign he had broken into my room. No damage. No threat they could prove. But one officer pulled me aside before leaving. He looked uncomfortable. "Did your landlord tell you about the last tenant?" he asked. I shook my head. He hesitated. "Guy about your age. Lived in your room." His roommate found him one morning sitting upright in bed. Alive, but not responsive. Family took him home. I don't know what happened after that. I moved out the next day. My landlord threatened to keep my deposit. I told him to keep it. I didn't care. It's been 3 years. I live alone now. I sleep with a fan on, not because I like the noise, but because I hate silence. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night and check my phone. Most nights, it's nothing. But last month, I woke up suddenly, heart racing for no reason. My room was dark. My phone screen said 3:17. And from somewhere behind the wall, very softly, something whispered my name. Story 2. When a landlord tells you not to open a locked room, your first instinct should probably be to leave. But when you're 23, broke, and desperate for a decent place to live, you convince yourself old men are just dramatic. That's what I did. My name is Marissa. At the time, I lived in Oregon with my friend Jenna. We had just graduated and were working miserable entry-level jobs, the kind where you dress professionally to sit under fluorescent lights and answer emails from people who hate you. We needed a house fast. Our old apartment had mold in the bathroom, our lease was ending, and everything in our budget looked like it had been used as a crime scene. Then Jenna found the house. 3 bedrooms, small backyard, quiet neighborhood, cheap rent, too cheap. The landlord, Mr. Harlan, was an older man with a stiff walk and watery blue eyes. He showed us around on a rainy Saturday morning. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and old carpet. The kitchen was outdated but clean. The living room had a big front window. The 2 bedrooms upstairs were small, but they worked. At the end of the hallway was a 3rd door. It had a deadbolt on the outside. Jenna noticed it first. "What's in there?" she asked. Mr. Harlan didn't even look at the door. "Storage. Old furniture. Flooring's unsafe. Don't open it." That was all. No nervous laugh. No explanation. Just a flat warning. I remember glancing at Jenna, expecting her to make a face. But she was already nodding like that was perfectly normal. We signed the lease that afternoon. For the first week, the house felt like a gift. We bought cheap rugs, secondhand lamps, little plants we kept forgetting to water. Jenna worked nights at a hotel front desk, and I worked days, so we crossed paths mostly in the evenings. The locked 3rd bedroom became a joke. "Maybe that's where he keeps the bodies," Jenna said one night while we ate takeout on the floor. "Don't say that." "What? You're scared?" "No. I just don't want to give this place ideas." We laughed. Then 2 nights later, I heard footsteps behind the locked door. Soft. Slow. Bare feet on old wood. I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom across the hall when it happened. At first, I thought Jenna had come upstairs, but then I remembered she was at work. I turned off the sink. Step. Pause. Step. The sound moved from one side of the room to the other. I stood there with toothpaste in my mouth, staring at the locked door. "Hello," I said, immediately feeling stupid. The footsteps stopped. Then someone knocked once. Not loud, just one patient tap from inside the room. I slept on the couch that night with every light on. The next morning, I called Mr. Harlan. He sighed when I told him. "Old houses settle." That didn't sound like settling. "Stay out of that room, Miss Carter." Then he hung up. That should have scared me more than the knock. Jenna thought I was overreacting at first. She had that practical way of handling fear, like if she could label it, it stopped being scary. "Raccoons in the wall," she said. "On the 2nd floor?" "Big raccoons." But then things started disappearing. Small things at first. My hair clip vanished from the bathroom sink and showed up in front of the locked door. Jenna's hotel name tag disappeared from her dresser and reappeared halfway under the 3rd bedroom door, like someone had slid it out from the other side. The worst was my driver's license. I kept it in my wallet. Always. One morning it was gone. We searched everywhere. My purse, my car, the couch cushions, the kitchen drawers. Then Jenna went quiet. I followed her gaze. My license was lying in the hallway, pressed flat against the locked door. Face up. I called the police that time. The officer who came out was polite but clearly annoyed. He checked the windows, the back door, the lock on the 3rd bedroom. "No signs of entry," he said. "There's something in that room," Jenna said. He looked at the deadbolt. "Do you have a key?" "No. The landlord does." "Then call your landlord." "We did," I said. "He won't open it." The officer gave us a look I'll never forget. Not disbelief exactly. More like he didn't want to get involved. "If you feel unsafe, stay somewhere else tonight." That was his solution. Stay somewhere else. But we didn't have money for a hotel, and neither of us wanted to admit we were scared enough to leave our own house. So we stayed. Over the next week, Jenna became obsessed with the room. She'd stand in the hallway, arms crossed, staring at the door. "Don't," I told her. "I just want to know what's inside." That's how people die in horror movies. This isn't a movie, Marissa. But it started feeling like one. The knocks became more frequent. only when we argued. If Jenna and I snapped at each other about dishes, money, groceries, there would be one knock from the locked room. Tap, like someone asking us to quiet down. One night, Jenna came into my bedroom holding her phone with a pale face. Look, she had taken a picture of the hallway because she said she heard breathing outside her door. At first, I saw nothing. Then she zoomed in. Under the third bedroom door, in the dark gap between the wood and the floor, were fingers. Not reaching out, just resting there. I wanted to believe it was a shadow, a trick of the camera, anything, but I could see the nails. Jenna called Mr. Harlan and screamed at him. He showed up 20 minutes later, furious and soaked from the rain. He didn't ask if we were okay. He didn't check the room. He just stood in the hallway shaking his finger at us. "You do not open this door," he said. "What is in there?" I asked. His face changed. For 1 second, he looked exhausted. Not angry, not defensive, afraid. "People who open it don't come back, right?" he said quietly. Then he left. Jenna made her decision after that. The next night, I woke up to a metallic scraping sound. I stepped into the hallway and saw Jenna kneeling by the locked door with a screwdriver and a hammer. "Jenna," I whispered. "Stop." She didn't look at me. "I need to see it." Her voice sounded wrong. Flat. Dreamy. "I need to know why it knows our names." My stomach turned. "What?" She pointed to the bottom of the door. Something had been scratched into the wood from the inside. 2 words. "Marissa first." I grabbed Jenna's arm and tried to pull her back, but she shoved me hard enough that I hit the wall. Then the lock broke. The door swung inward. The room was empty. Completely empty. No furniture. No broken floor. No storage boxes. Just bare walls, dusty floorboards, and 2 old mattresses lying side by side in the center of the room. The air smelled cold and sour, like a basement that had been sealed too long. Jenna stepped inside. I stayed in the doorway. "Jenna, come out." She didn't answer. She was staring at the far wall. Names had been scratched into the plaster. Dozens of them. Some old and faded. Some fresh. And near the bottom, carved deep like someone had used a nail, were our names. Jenna Miller. Marissa Carter. Beside Jenna's name was a date. That day's date. My hands started shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. Then the door slammed. Not shut. Open. Behind me, the hallway lights went out. Jenna screamed. I don't remember thinking. I grabbed her sleeve and pulled. Something pulled back from inside the dark room. Not hard enough to see. Just enough to make her body jerk backward. She cried out my name. I pulled with everything I had. Her sleeve tore. We fell into the hallway together, scrambling backward like children. The third bedroom door began closing by itself. Slowly. Before it shut, I saw the mattresses. For 1 second, they weren't empty. There were shapes lying under them. Human shapes. Still. Waiting. The door clicked shut. Police came again. This time, Mr. Harlan came too. He looked older than before, smaller somehow. When the officers opened the room, it was normal. Boxes. Old chairs. Rolled carpet. No mattresses. No names. No scratches. Jenna and I moved out before sunrise. We broke the lease. Lost money. Slept on a friend's living room floor for 3 weeks. I never saw Mr. Harlan again. Jenna refuses to talk about that night now. She says the more we talk about it, the more real it becomes. But there's one thing I never told her. A month after we moved, I got an envelope in the mail with no return address. Inside was my driver's license, the one I had replaced. Across the front, scratched over my face, were 2 words. Not yet. Story 3. The first thing I noticed was his laugh. That probably sounds strange. People change their hair, their clothes, their habits. But laughter is different. You don't think about your roommate's laugh until one day it comes out wrong. Then you realize how well you knew it. My name is Ryan. I was 28 when this happened, living in a rented house outside Columbus, Ohio, with my roommate Chris. We weren't best friends exactly, but after 4 years of sharing rent, bills, furniture, and bad frozen pizza, he felt close enough to family. Chris was loud in a harmless way. He sang badly while cooking. He shouted at football games. He laughed from his stomach, this ridiculous bark that made him sound like he was choking on joy. That was Chris. Then I went away for a weekend. My cousin was getting married 2 hours north, so I left Friday afternoon and came back Sunday evening. Nothing dramatic. Just cheap hotel sheets, awkward family speeches, and too much cake. When I pulled into our driveway, Chris's car was there. The house looked normal. Porch light on. Trash bins by the side gate. Living room curtains half open. But when I stepped inside, something felt off. Not wrong enough to scare me. Just still. Usually if Chris was home, there was sound. TV, music, him yelling at someone online. That night, the house was silent. Chris? I called. He appeared in the kitchen doorway. I actually flinched because I hadn't heard him move. He smiled. Hey man. Same face. Same beard. Same old blue hoodie. But his voice was flatter. Not emotionless exactly. More like someone doing an impression after only hearing him speak once. You good? I asked. Of course, he said. That was the first strange thing. Chris never said of course. He said, yeah dude, we're all good, or living the dream when he was miserable. I told myself I was tired. Then he laughed. I had made some stupid comment about the wedding DJ playing the same song twice, and Chris laughed through his nose. Short. Controlled. Wrong. I stared at him for a second too long. He noticed. What? He asked. Nothing, I said. You sound sick. He touched his throat. Maybe. The next few days were full of tiny things. He used his left hand to write a grocery list, even though Chris was right-handed. He put ketchup on eggs, which Chris always said was disgusting. He forgot the name of our old landlord, but somehow knew the exact color of the shirt I wore the day I moved in 4 years earlier. That was what got me. We were sitting in the living room, half watching a movie neither of us cared about, when he said, You wore green the first day. I looked over. What? When you moved in, he said, eyes still on the TV. Green shirt. White shoes. You dropped a box in the driveway. I laughed, uncomfortable. How do you remember that? He turned to me slowly. I remember everything I need to. There was no joke in his voice. I started avoiding him after that. Not obviously. I stayed later at work. Ate dinner in my room. Took phone calls outside. I felt ridiculous because what was I supposed to say? My roommate is acting slightly wrong. He laughs differently. He remembers things too well. One night, I called our mutual friend Matt and asked if he had talked to Chris recently. Not since last week, Matt said. Why? No reason. He's just been weird. Matt snorted. Chris has always been weird. No, like actually weird. There was a pause. Then Matt said, Ryan, didn't Chris text you? My stomach tightened. When? Saturday night. He asked if you were home. I sat up in bed. I was at the wedding. Yeah, I told him that. What exactly did he say? Matt paused again. He said, Good. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, Chris was in the kitchen making coffee. He stood perfectly still while it brewed, hands resting on the counter, eyes on the machine. Matt said you texted him Saturday. I said. Chris didn't move. Did I? You don't remember? He smiled without looking at me. My phone has been acting strange. That night, I searched the house. I waited until Chris left for what he claimed was a walk, though I had never known him to take walks in his life. Then I checked his room. I know that sounds invasive. It was. I'm not proud of it, but fear makes you cross lines you used to respect. His room looked normal at first. Bed unmade. Laundry basket overflowing. Empty soda cans on the desk. Then I noticed the mirror. On the dresser, taped around the frame, were photos of Chris. Old photos. Recent photos. Printed from social media. Cropped from group pictures. Different expressions. Laughing. Angry. Surprised. Smiling with teeth. Under each photo were handwritten notes. Too much teeth. Eyes smaller. Hold shoulders loose. Laugh longer. My skin went cold. Then I heard the front door open. I froze. Footsteps entered the hallway. Slow, barely there. I shoved the papers back the way I found them and slipped into the closet because it was the only place to hide. It was stupid, childish, but I panicked. Chris came into the room. He stood in front of the mirror. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he laughed. Not his real laugh. Not the wrong laugh from earlier. A practice laugh. He tried it again, and again, each time closer. Then he said my name in Chris's voice. Ryan. He smiled at himself. Ryan, you're being paranoid. He repeated it. Ryan, you're being paranoid. I covered my mouth with both hands. My phone buzzed in my pocket. One tiny vibration. Chris stopped. His eyes moved to the closet door. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling as I fumbled blindly to silence the phone. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. Chris stepped closer. The floor creaked. Then from downstairs, the microwave beeped. He turned his head. Another long pause. Then he left. I waited until I heard him in the kitchen before climbing out the window onto the small roof above the porch. I dropped badly into the bushes, scraped my arms, and ran to my car. I didn't drive home that night. I slept in a motel and called in sick the next morning. That afternoon, I went back with Matt. Chris wasn't there. Matt kept trying to calm me down, telling me maybe it was some weird acting project or prank. But he stopped talking when we found the phone. It was buried behind the shed under loose dirt. Chris's real phone. The screen was cracked, but it still turned on. There were missed calls from me, Matt, his mom, everyone. And one unsent message. It was addressed to me. That thing is in my room. Matt whispered, "What the hell?" Then we heard the back door open. Chris stood in the doorway. Or whatever was wearing Chris stood there. He looked at the phone in my hand. Then he smiled. Not like Chris. Not even close. "Where did you find that?" he asked. Matt stepped back. I couldn't move. The thing came down the steps slowly. "I'm getting better," it said. "You noticed too early." Matt grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the side gate. We ran. I heard footsteps behind us, calm and steady, not rushing. That was somehow worse. We reached Matt's car and locked the doors. The thing stood in the driveway, watching us through the windshield. Then it lifted one hand and waved. Chris's wave. Almost perfect. The police searched the house. They found the photos, the notes, and Chris's old phone. But they didn't find Chris. And they didn't find the replacement. By then it was gone. The official explanation was that Chris had staged something, maybe had a breakdown, maybe disappeared voluntarily. His family never believed that. Neither did I. I moved out immediately. For months, I checked every face too carefully. Cashiers, neighbors, co-workers. I listened for wrong laughs and watched which hand people used. The worst part came 6 months later. I was in a grocery store 2 towns over, standing in the cereal aisle, when I heard someone laugh behind me. Chris's laugh. The real one. Loud. Warm. Familiar. I turned so fast I nearly dropped my basket. At the end of the aisle stood a man I didn't recognize. Average height. Brown jacket. Clean-shaven. Completely ordinary. He looked at me and smiled. Then in Chris's voice he said, "Better now?" I left my basket on the floor and walked out without looking back. I don't know what happened to Chris. I don't know what that thing was. But I know this. It wasn't practicing to become Chris for the world. It was practicing for me. And I think, eventually, it wanted to know me well enough to become someone I would let inside. Drafted from your uploaded story brief and constraints. Story 4. The Roommate Agreement. The first time I heard crying from the bathroom, I thought someone had left a video playing. That was the only explanation my brain would accept at the time. I remember standing in the hallway of that apartment at 12:43 a.m., barefoot, holding a glass of water, listening to this soft, broken sobbing come from behind the bathroom door. It sounded like a child trying not to wake anyone up. And the worst part was, for a few seconds, I actually reached for the doorknob. My name is Megan. I was 24 when this happened, living in Portland, Oregon, and I had just moved out of my parents' house for the first time. I wasn't exactly independent in the impressive way people talk about. I was working front desk at a dental clinic, barely making enough for rent, eating cheap pasta 3 nights a week, and pretending I wasn't terrified of messing up my life. The apartment listing looked normal. Room available in quiet 2-bedroom. Female roommate preferred. No pets. No parties. Utilities split. The rent was suspiciously affordable, but the building was old, the bedroom was small, and the location wasn't perfect, so I told myself it made sense. My roommate's name was Elise. She was 31, worked remotely for some insurance company, and had the kind of calm face that made her difficult to read. She wasn't unfriendly, just quiet, controlled, like every sentence had been edited before she said it. When I came to see the room, she gave me a full tour. The living room had a gray couch, 2 lamps, and almost no decorations. The kitchen was spotless. The hallway was narrow, with our bedrooms on opposite sides and the bathroom at the end. Nothing felt wrong at first. Then she handed me the roommate agreement. It was printed on 2 pages and placed neatly in a folder. Most of it was normal. Rent due on the 1st. No smoking. Wash dishes after use. Quiet hours after 10. Do not enter each other's bedrooms without permission. Then I reached rule number 11. If you hear crying from the bathroom after midnight, do not comfort it. I looked up at her, expecting her to smile. She didn't. I gave this awkward little laugh. Is that some kind of inside joke? Elise took the paper from my hand and tapped the line once with her finger. No, she said. It's important. I stared at her, waiting for more. She folded her hands in front of her. Old pipes. Weird acoustics. Sometimes sounds travel from other apartments. Crying? I asked. Sometimes. I should have left right then. I know that now. But at 24, broke, tired, and desperate to prove I could handle my own life, I convinced myself she was just strange. So I signed it. For the first week, everything was fine. Elise kept to herself. She cooked simple meals, drank peppermint tea, and went to bed early. I worked, came home, watched Netflix on my laptop, and fell asleep to the sound of rain hitting the window. Then, on the 8th night, I heard it. At first, it was just a faint sound under the hum of the refrigerator. A sniffle. Then a small sob. I paused my show and sat up in bed. The crying came again. Soft. Wet. Miserable. I opened my bedroom door. The hallway was dark except for the little night light Elise kept plugged into the wall. The bathroom door was closed. A thin strip of darkness showed underneath it. Elise. I whispered. No answer. The crying continued. My chest tightened. It sounded so real. Not like pipes. Not like a neighbor through the wall. It was coming from inside our bathroom. I took one step forward. Then Elise's bedroom door opened. She stood there in a long gray t-shirt, her hair loose around her face, eyes wide but not surprised. Go back to your room, she said. I whispered, someone's in there. No. Elise, listen. I said go back to your room. Her voice was low, but there was something sharp underneath it. Not anger exactly. Fear. The crying stopped. Just like that, the hallway became silent. Elise looked toward the bathroom door, and then back at me. Don't open it, she said. No matter what it sounds like. I went back to my room and locked the door. The next morning, I expected her to explain. She didn't. She made coffee like nothing happened. When I asked her about it, she only said, "You signed the agreement." That was it. For a few days, I barely slept. Every creak made me tense. Every time I passed the bathroom, I felt watched, which was stupid because there was nothing there. It was a bathroom. Toothbrushes, towels, a cracked mirror, a shower curtain with tiny blue flowers. Normal things. Then the crying came again. This time, it sounded like my mom. I was half asleep when I heard it. A low, muffled sob. Then my name. Megan. I sat upright so fast my blanket slid off the bed. Megan, please. My blood turned cold. My mother lives in Salem. She was not in my apartment bathroom at 1:16 in the morning. I knew that. I knew it clearly. But hearing her voice crying like that did something to me. I grabbed my phone and called her. She answered on the fifth ring, groggy and annoyed. "Meg, are you okay?" I almost cried from relief. "Yeah," I whispered. "Sorry. I just wanted to check on you." She sighed. "Honey, it's 1 in the morning." From the hallway, the voice cried again. "Megan, help me." My mother went quiet on the phone. "Who was that?" she asked. I didn't answer, because the voice outside my room had said the exact words in her exact tone. I hung up and put both hands over my mouth. The crying shifted. It became softer, closer. Not physically closer, exactly, but more intimate, like whoever was doing it had pressed their mouth near the crack under my bedroom door. "Megan," it whispered. I didn't move. Then Elise knocked on my door once. "Headphones," she said. That was all. After that, the apartment changed for me. During the day, it still looked normal, but it didn't feel normal. The bathroom door seemed too dark at the edges. The mirror always looked a little fogged, even when no one had showered. Sometimes, I'd step in to brush my teeth and smell something sweet and rotten for half a second before it vanished. Elise became stricter. No bathroom after midnight. Keep your bedroom door closed. Do not answer voices in the hallway. Do not say your own name out loud near the bathroom. That last one almost made me laugh until I saw her face. "What happens if I do?" She stared at me for a long moment. "It gets better at you," she said. I didn't understand what that meant until the fourth time it cried. It used my own voice. I was in bed, scrolling through my phone, when I heard myself sobbing from the bathroom. Not someone who sounded like me. Me. The same breath pattern. The same little broken hiccup I make when I try not to cry. The same weak way I say please when I'm scared. "Please," my voice said from behind the bathroom door. "I don't want to be alone." I froze. My room felt suddenly too small. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone. Someone was watching, and I had no way out. Then it said something no stranger could know. "Remember the blue dress?" My skin went cold. When I was 9, I ruined my cousin's birthday party by spilling punch on her blue dress. Everyone laughed. I cried in the bathroom for almost an hour. I had never told Elise that. I had barely told anyone. The voice continued, still sounding like me. "You always leave people when they cry." I covered my ears. It laughed. Not loudly. Not like a monster. Like me trying to laugh through tears. That was the night I decided to move out. I didn't tell Elise at first. I searched listings during lunch breaks. I asked co-workers if they knew anyone looking for a roommate. I told my mom the apartment had mold, because that was easier than explaining that my bathroom was learning my voice. But Elise knew. The next evening, she stood in my doorway and said, "It's worse when someone leaves." I looked up from packing a small box of books. "What?" Her face looked exhausted, older than usual. "The crying," she said. "It doesn't like being ignored after it has learned you." I swallowed. "Then why do you stay?" She looked toward the bathroom. "Because someone has to." I didn't sleep that night. At 12:02, the crying started. At 12:18, it became my mother again. At 12:31, it became Elise. "Megan," Elise's voice sobbed from the bathroom. "Open the door. Please. I made a mistake." I sat against my bedroom wall, shaking. Then I heard Elise scream from her actual room. Not a loud horror movie scream. A short, terrified sound that cut off fast. My body moved before my brain could stop it. I opened my door. Elise's bedroom was open. Empty. The bathroom door at the end of the hall was closed. "Elise," I whispered. Something inside the bathroom knocked once. Then Elise's voice came from behind the door. "Megan, please." It got my hand. I started crying. I couldn't help it. The doorknob turned slightly from the inside. "It hurts," she whimpered. "Please." I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the hallway made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. Because behind me, from Elise's bedroom, came her real voice. "Do not open that door." I turned. Elise was standing in the shadows of her room, pale, shaking, holding a kitchen chair like a weapon. The voice in the bathroom stopped crying. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Then something on the other side of the bathroom door sighed. Not cried, sighed, like it was disappointed. And then in my voice it whispered, "You almost did." I left the next morning. I didn't pack everything. I took 2 bags, my laptop, and my documents. Elise didn't try to stop me. She just stood by the kitchen counter and watched me leave. Before I closed the door, she said, "Don't answer it if it follows." I asked what she meant. She only looked at me with those tired eyes. "You invited it to learn you," she said. "That's enough sometimes." I stayed with my mom for 3 weeks, then found a studio across town. Life slowly became normal again. Mostly. I work at a different clinic now. I sleep with a fan on. I don't use night lights anymore because they remind me of that hallway. And I never, ever live with roommates. It's been 2 years. Last month, I woke up at 12:43 a.m. to someone crying in my apartment bathroom. I live alone. At first, it sounded like a child, then my mother, then me. And when I stood frozen outside the door, unable to breathe, it whispered through the wood in Elise's voice. "Megan, I'm tired now. Your turn." Story 5. The first video I found of myself sleeping was 47 minutes long. I remember that detail because my brain latched onto it, like focusing on the length of the clip would somehow make it less disturbing. 47 minutes. Not 5 seconds. Not an accidental recording. Someone had set up a camera in my room and filmed me in bed for almost an hour. At the time, I was 21, studying business at a university in Chicago. My name is Ryan. I wasn't rich, popular, or interesting. I was just a regular student trying to survive classes, part-time shifts at a grocery store, and the kind of exhaustion that makes you forget what day it is. I shared an apartment with a guy named Cole. Cole was a film major. If you've ever known one, you already know the type. Everything was a project. Every awkward silence was raw human behavior. Every messy room was visual texture. When I first moved in, I thought he was funny. He carried a camera everywhere. To the kitchen, to the laundry room, sometimes even to the corner store. He said he was making a documentary about ordinary people and loneliness in big cities. "You don't have to perform," he told me the first week. "Just exist." I laughed and said, "That's the easiest acting job I'll ever have." At first, it was annoying but harmless. He'd film me making noodles at midnight, or tying my shoes by the door, or sitting on the couch half asleep after work. I told him to stop plenty of times, and he usually did. Usually. The first real red flag happened on a Tuesday morning. I was eating cereal before class when I noticed a tiny black dot on the bookshelf in the living room. It was wedged between 2 old paperbacks, facing the couch. I leaned closer. It was a camera, a small one. When Cole came out of his room, I held it up between 2 fingers. "Dude," I said, "what the hell is this?" For once, he looked embarrassed. "It's not creepy," he said immediately, which is exactly what creepy people say before explaining something creepy. Hidden cameras in the living room are pretty creepy. He rubbed his face. "It's for the documentary. I wanted natural footage. People act different when they know they're being filmed." I stared at him. "Cole, we live here. This isn't a film set." "I know. I'm sorry. I should have asked." I wanted to be mad longer, but he looked genuinely ashamed. He deleted the footage in front of me, or at least he deleted something, and promised there were no more cameras. I believed him because believing him was easier than finding a new apartment in the middle of the semester. For about a week, things went back to normal. Then I found another camera in the kitchen. This one was stuck under a cabinet, angled toward the sink. I confronted him again. This time, he didn't apologize as quickly. "You don't understand," he said. "The project is about isolation, about how people behave when they think no one sees them." "Exactly," I snapped. "When they think no one sees them. That's called privacy." He got quiet after that. He avoided me for 2 days. I heard him in his room at night, editing, headphones on, blue light flickering under the door. That was when the apartment started feeling wrong. Not haunted. Not dramatic. Just watched. I'd be brushing my teeth and glance at the vent, changing shirts and stare at the smoke detector, sitting on the couch and suddenly feel like I was in the center of a frame. The street looked ordinary, quiet, even comforting, but my gut told me something was off. I'd learned too late that danger often wears a friendly face. One night, Cole left for a screening on campus and forgot his external hard drive plugged into the living room TV. I wasn't trying to snoop at first. I just wanted to watch YouTube. But when I switched inputs, a folder popped up on the screen. Loneliness_project_raw. Inside were dozens of clips. Kitchen_03. Hallway_07. Ryan_living room_night. My stomach tightened. I clicked one. It showed me sitting on the couch, eating takeout, scrolling on my phone. Nothing shocking. Just private. Sad in a way I didn't like seeing from the outside. Then I noticed another folder. Bedroom studies. My hand went cold around the remote. There were 4 files inside, all titled with dates. All dates from that week. I clicked the newest one. The screen went black for a second, then showed my bedroom from a high corner angle. My bed. My desk. My laundry basket. Me asleep. The camera must have been near the ceiling, maybe hidden on top of the wardrobe. I watched myself shift under the blanket. The room was silent except for the faint hum of traffic outside. Then about 18 minutes into the video, my bedroom door opened. I stopped breathing. Someone stepped in. The figure was mostly shadow, tall and still, standing beside my bed. At first, I thought it was Cole. I wanted it to be Cole because at least that made sense. Horrible, but human. The figure stood there for almost 6 minutes, just watching me sleep. Then it leaned slightly toward my face, as if listening to my breathing. I slammed the TV off so hard the remote cracked against the floor. When Cole came home, I was waiting in the kitchen with the hard drive on the table. He looked at it, then at me. His face went blank. "You filmed me sleeping," I said. He didn't answer. "You put a camera in my bedroom." His mouth opened, but no words came out. I shoved the hard drive toward him. "Who's in my room?" That got a reaction. "What? Don't play dumb." He grabbed the drive, plugged it into his laptop with shaking hands, and opened the clip. I watched his face as the figure entered my room. He went pale. "I didn't film this," he whispered. I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "It's your camera. I didn't put one in your room. You expect me to believe that?" He paused the video and zoomed in, but the figure was too dark to identify. Then he said something that made my skin crawl. "This footage is from tomorrow." I stared at him. "What?" He pointed at the timestamp. The date in the corner was Wednesday. It was Tuesday night. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I said, "Your camera date is wrong." He nodded too fast. Yeah, probably." But he didn't sound convinced. We checked the other files. Every single clip had a timestamp 1 day ahead. At first, I told myself it was a technical glitch. Cole used old cameras, weird adapters, pirated editing software. A wrong date wasn't impossible. Then we opened a file titled hallway_exit. The footage showed our apartment hallway from inside the living room. The timestamp said Wednesday, 8:12 p.m. In the video, I walked out of my room wearing my green jacket, holding my backpack. Cole followed me, arguing. I couldn't hear the audio, but I could read our body language. I looked furious. He looked scared. Then both of us turned toward the bathroom. The door opened by itself. The clip ended. I looked down at what I was wearing. A black hoodie. My green jacket was still hanging by the front door. Cole whispered, "Ryan, I swear to God I didn't make this." That night, neither of us slept. We sat in the living room with every light on. Cole unplugged every camera he could find. 5 total. Living room, kitchen, hallway, and 2 I hadn't known about. At 3 a.m., his laptop pinged. A new file appeared on the hard drive. Neither of us touched it at first. The file name was Ryan_packing_final. My pulse pounded in my ears. Cole whispered, "Don't open it." I opened it. The footage showed my bedroom again. Daytime. I was packing clothes into a duffel bag, moving fast, panicked. The The room looked exactly like mine, except the closet door behind me was open. Something stood inside, not fully visible, just enough to see a shape behind my hanging clothes. Tall, narrow, still. In the video, I didn't notice it. I zipped the bag, turned toward the door, and the shape moved. The clip cut to black. I couldn't speak. Cole kept saying my name, but he sounded far away. I grabbed my phone and called campus security, then 911. I didn't care how stupid I sounded. I said someone might be inside our apartment. The police arrived 20 minutes later. Those 20 minutes felt endless. I stood by the front door with my shoes on, keys in my hand, staring down the hallway toward my bedroom. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling as I fumbled for the keys. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. The officers searched the apartment. They found no one. But in my bedroom closet, behind a stack of old boxes, they found a space in the wall. Not a doorway exactly. More like a maintenance gap, hidden behind a loose panel. It connected to a narrow crawl space that ran between units. Inside, they found dust, old wrappers, and a small tripod. No camera. No person. Cole moved out that same night. So did I. The police took the hard drive, but nothing ever came of it. They questioned Cole hard. I did too, in my own way. Part of me still wanted to blame him. Maybe he had staged the whole thing. Maybe he was sick enough to fake fear. But there was one thing I never understood. The final video. The one of me packing. I never packed in that room. After seeing the clip, I refused to go back inside. The police collected my things later. I waited downstairs the entire time. So where did that footage come from? It's been 3 years. I live alone now in a newer building with no crawl spaces, no roommates, and tape over my laptop camera. I check smoke detectors in hotels. I check vents in bathrooms. I check closets before I sleep. Cole messaged me once, about 6 months after it happened. Just one sentence. Do you still get the files? I blocked him. Because I do. Not often. Just sometimes. A blank email from no sender. A video attachment with tomorrow's date. I never open them anymore. Except last night, one downloaded by itself. The thumbnail showed my apartment hallway. My current apartment. And at the far end of it, standing just outside my bedroom door, was someone holding a camera. Story 6. By the time I realized Hannah had ruined my life, everyone else thought she had saved it. That's the hardest part to explain. She never yelled at me, never threatened me, never grabbed me or followed me down the street. If anything, she was kind. Too kind. The kind of person people defended automatically because she remembered birthdays, baked banana bread, and knew exactly what to say when you were falling apart. My name is Claire. I was 27 when I moved into Hannah's apartment in Nashville. I had just ended a 5-year relationship, and I was in that strange stage of heartbreak where everything feels both too quiet and too loud. I worked as an assistant manager at a small boutique downtown. I wasn't making much, but I liked the job. I liked helping customers choose dresses for weddings and interviews and first dates. It made me feel useful, even when my own life felt like a drawer full of tangled wires. I found Hannah's listing online. Private room and peaceful home. Looking for clean, respectful female roommate. Must value communication. The photos were beautiful. Warm lighting. Plants in every corner. White curtains. A kitchen that looked like it belonged to someone who had their life together. When I met her, she hugged me immediately. Not in a weird way. Just warm. Natural. "Oh, Claire," she said, like we were already friends. "You look exhausted." I laughed because it was true. She made tea while I toured the apartment. She asked about my job, my breakup, my family. I remember thinking she was easy to talk to. Maybe too easy, but I was lonely enough to ignore that. The first red flag was small. When I mentioned my ex's name, Tyler, Hannah's smile faded for half a second. Then she said, "You don't need people who make you explain why you're hurt." I blinked. It was exactly what I had been feeling for months, but hadn't said out loud. I should have wondered how she knew where to press. Instead, I felt understood. I moved in the next week. At first, living with Hannah felt like being taken care of by an older sister I never had. She cooked dinner and always made extra. She cleaned before I even noticed a mess. She left little notes on the counter. "Big day today. You've got this. Don't forget your umbrella." Made soup. "Eat before work." It was sweet. When rent came due, she paid early and told me to send my half, whenever, no stress. When I cried after finding old photos of Tyler, she sat beside me on the couch and rubbed my back until I fell asleep. "You're safe here," she whispered. I believed her. The first real shift happened with my best friend, Maya. Maya had been trying to get me out of the apartment for weeks. Drinks, brunch, walks in the park. I kept canceling because I was tired, but one Friday, I finally agreed to meet her. As I was getting ready, Hannah leaned against my doorframe. "That dress is pretty," she said. "Is Maya the one who said you should start dating again?" I paused with one earring in. "Yeah." "Why?" Hannah shrugged. "No reason. She just seems a little pushy. She's trying to help." "Of course," Hannah said softly. "Some people help by listening. Some people help by forcing you to move at their pace." I frowned but didn't argue. At dinner, Maya was normal. Funny, loud, a little blunt, like always. But Hannah's words sat in the back of my head all night. When Maya said, "You can't hide forever," I heard it differently. Pushy, insensitive, controlling. After that, I started answering Maya less. Then came work. One morning, I woke up late because my phone alarm hadn't gone off. I rushed into the kitchen, panicking, and found Hannah calmly pouring coffee. "You turned it off in your sleep," she said. I didn't remember doing that. When I got to work, my manager, Denise, was irritated but forgiving. 2 days later, it happened again. Then I missed a staff meeting because the time had somehow disappeared from my calendar. Denise pulled me aside. "Claire, I know you're going through things," she said, "but I need you present." I cried in the bathroom. That night, Hannah made pasta and listened while I vented. "Maybe this job isn't good for you," she said. "You come home drained every day." "I need money. You need peace more." The way she said it made quitting sound like healing. I didn't quit, but I started doubting myself. Every mistake felt like proof that I was falling apart. Then my mom called Hannah. Not me. Hannah came into my room holding her phone. "Your mom is worried," she said gently. I sat up. "Why is she calling you?" "She said you haven't answered in days." I checked my phone. No missed calls from Mom. No texts. Hannah tilted her head. "Maybe your phone is acting up again." Again. That word stuck. A week later, my brother texted me, angry. "Why are you telling Mom we're stressing you out?" I stared at the message, confused. I hadn't told her that. When I asked Hannah, she looked hurt. "She called while you were sleeping," she said. "I just said you needed rest." "What exactly did you say?" Her eyes watered. "I was protecting you." And just like that, I felt guilty. That was Hannah's gift. She could make you feel cruel for noticing the cage. By the second month, my life had become very small. Work, apartment, Hannah. My friends stopped inviting me out. My family conversations became awkward. Denise cut my hours after I made too many scheduling mistakes. Every bad thing pushed me back through the apartment door, where Hannah was waiting with warm food and soft words. You don't need people who disappear when you struggle. You're not hard to love. They're just lazy. I'm the only one actually here. The scary thing is, part of me was grateful. That's what people don't understand. Control doesn't always look like a locked door. Sometimes it looks like someone bringing you soup when you're too tired to stand. The turning point came because of a package. It was addressed to Lena Morris, but delivered to our apartment. I almost left it on the mail table, but the name sounded familiar. I asked Hannah about it. Her face changed. Only for a second. "Old tenant," she said. "She still forgets to update her address." "What was she like?" Hannah smiled again. "Troubled." That word bothered me. A few nights later, while Hannah was in the shower, I searched Lena's name online. I found her Instagram. The last post was from 3 years earlier. A photo of our living room. Same couch. Same plants. Same white curtains. Caption: I'm so lucky I found her. My stomach tightened. I clicked her profile. The posts before that were normal. Friends, work, family, concerts. Then, slowly, Hannah appeared. Dinner photos. Cozy apartment pictures. Captions about healing, peace, cutting off toxic people. Then nothing. No posts after. I'm so lucky I found her. I searched another name from an old envelope I found in the hallway drawer. Marissa Vale. Same pattern. Normal life. Move-in post. Hannah appearing. Friends disappearing from comments. Final post. I'm so lucky I found her. I found 4 women. For final messages. Same sentence. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. Behind me, Hannah said, "You shouldn't dig through other people's pain." I turned. She stood in my doorway in her robe, hair wet, expression calm. Too calm. I tried to lock my phone, but she had already seen. "What happened to them?" I asked. She sighed like I was a child. "They left when they were ready." "Where?" "Away from people who kept hurting them." I stood up slowly. "I'm going to stay with Maya tonight." Hannah's face softened. "Oh, Claire." 2 words. So much pity in them. "You're having an episode," she said. "I'm leaving." I stepped toward the door, but she moved in front of me. Not aggressively. Just enough. "You're scared," she whispered. "That's okay. Healing feels like fear when you're used to chaos. Move." Her eyes filled with tears. After everything, that almost worked. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Maya. "I'm outside. You told me to come if I didn't hear from you." I hadn't remembered sending that message. Maybe I'd sent it half asleep. Maybe some part of me had known. Hannah looked at my phone. For the first time, her expression cracked. I ran. Not gracefully. Not bravely. I shoved past her, slammed my shoulder into the wall, and bolted down the hallway. Hannah didn't chase me. That was worse somehow. She just called after me. "Claire, don't make me explain you to them." I got outside barefoot, crying, shaking, and collapsed into Maya's car. Maya locked the doors. Hannah stood at the building entrance, arms folded around herself, looking devastated. Anyone passing by would have thought I had hurt her. I stayed with Maya for a month. I changed passwords, replaced my phone, contacted my family, and slowly pieced together how bad it had gotten. My calendar had been edited. My alarms deleted. Texts to friends had been muted. My mom had received messages from me I never wrote. The police took a report, but there wasn't enough for charges. Hannah claimed I was unstable, grieving, confused. She had screenshots, concerned messages, photos of meals she'd made me, proof of kindness. That was her armor. I moved cities 6 months later. I'm better now, mostly. I have my own apartment. I keep my phone locked. I don't share passwords. I don't let people become my whole world just because they know how to sound gentle. Last week, Maya sent me a listing. She didn't write anything except, "Isn't this her place?" It was. Same apartment. Same plants. Same white curtains. New room available. The listing said, "Looking for someone who needs a peaceful place to start over." In the final photo, Hannah was standing in the kitchen beside a young woman I didn't recognize. They were both smiling. And in the comments under the post, the girl had written, "I'm so lucky I found her." Story 7. I used to think old houses only felt creepy because people expected them to. You know the kind of place I mean. Wooden floors that groan when the temperature changes. Pipes that knock in the walls. A basement light that flickers for half a second before turning on. Normal things. At least, that's what I told myself when we moved into the house on Bellwood Avenue. I was 24 then, living in Pennsylvania with 3 friends from college. Marcus, Drew, and Elena. None of us had money. Rent in the city was getting ridiculous, and this old house was somehow cheaper than our last apartment, even though it had 4 bedrooms, a porch, a little backyard, and a basement big enough to store a whole second life. The landlord, Mr. Voss, was an older man with pale blue eyes and hands that shook when he counted cash. He showed us around quickly, like he didn't want to spend too much time inside. When we got to the basement door, he paused. "Nothing wrong down there," he said, before any of us asked. Just old. Drew laughed. That's exactly what someone says before the ghost shows up. Mr. Voss didn't laugh. He opened the door, flicked on the light, and let us look down the stairs. The basement smelled like dust, old wood, and something damp underneath. There were shelves against the walls, a rusty washer, a dryer, and a brick wall at the far end that looked newer than the rest of the foundation. Don't mess with anything behind the shelves, Mr. Voss said. What's behind them? I asked. He looked at me for a second too long. More basement. We joked about it for weeks. Whenever something creaked, Drew would say, "That's the basement roommate." Whenever the dryer made that heavy thumping sound, Elena would whisper, "He's awake." Marcus laughed with us at first. Then he started going down there alone. It began harmlessly. He said the basement was quiet and helped him think. Marcus was always the most private out of all of us. He wrote music, stayed up late, smoked on the back porch, and had a way of disappearing from conversations without actually leaving the room. So when he started sitting downstairs for an hour or two, nobody cared. Then it became every night. I'd come home from work around 11 and see the basement light glowing under the door. Sometimes I could hear him talking. At first, I thought he was on the phone, but one night, I stopped by the door and listened. Marcus was speaking softly. Then he paused, and another voice answered. It was low, older, almost too quiet to understand. My heart sank into my stomach as the door clicked shut behind me, and I realized I was completely alone in the hallway, listening to someone in our basement who wasn't supposed to exist. I backed away before Marcus saw me. The next morning, I asked him about it. "Were you talking to someone last night?" Marcus was making coffee. He didn't look at me. "No, I heard you." He smiled faintly. "Old houses talk." I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. After that, Marcus changed fast. He stopped eating dinner with us. He stopped leaving for work on time. He smelled like basement dust all the time, like damp concrete and old clothes. The strangest part was the way he spoke. One night, Elena asked if he wanted pizza. Marcus stared at the box and said, "We don't take food upstairs." Drew blinked. "What?" Marcus looked confused, like he didn't know why we were staring. "I mean, I'm not hungry." Another time, I found him standing in the living room at 3 in the morning, facing the wall beside the fireplace. "Marcus?" I whispered. He didn't move. I stepped closer. His lips were moving. I caught only one sentence. "This house remembers who keeps it." I wanted to laugh at my own paranoia, but the whisper of footsteps from the basement made me freeze, every nerve screaming that I was not imagining this. The next day, Elena said she wanted to move. Drew told her she was being dramatic, but I could tell he was scared too. We decided to check the basement when Marcus left. Except Marcus didn't leave anymore. He called out sick 3 days in a row. He stayed in his room during the day and went downstairs at night. When I passed his bedroom, I could hear him dragging furniture across the floor, though when I knocked, he said everything was fine. On Friday night, Drew finally snapped. Marcus had been in the basement for almost 6 hours. It was after midnight. Rain tapped against the kitchen windows. Drew stood up and said, "I'm done." He grabbed a flashlight. Elena whispered, "Don't." But he opened the basement door anyway. The air coming up from below was cold. Too cold. We went down together. The basement looked normal at first. Washer, dryer, shelves, boxes we hadn't unpacked. But the brick wall at the far end caught my attention again. One of the shelves had been pulled aside. Behind it was a narrow opening, barely wide enough for a person to slip through. Drew shined the flashlight inside. There was a second room. Not big, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet. The ceiling was low, the walls unfinished, the floor dirt instead of concrete. Inside were suitcases, dozens of them, old leather ones, plastic ones from the 90s. A child's blue suitcase with faded airplane stickers on it. On the walls were photographs. Tenants. I knew because one photo showed a group of young women standing on our porch, dressed like they were from the 70s. Another showed 2 men holding beer cans in the backyard. Another showed a family in front of the fireplace. and one photo near the center was of us, taken from across the street. The four of us carrying boxes on move-in day. Elena started crying. Then we saw the chair. It faced the brick wall. Marcus was sitting in it. His hands rested on his knees. His face looked pale and calm. "Marcus," I said. He turned slowly. Behind him, in the corner, something shifted. A man stepped out of the dark. He was old, but not weak. His hair was thin and white, his beard yellowed, his clothes stained and layered like he'd been wearing pieces of different lives for years. Drew screamed, "Who are you?" The old man smiled. Marcus spoke first. "He owns the house." Elena sobbed. "No, he doesn't." Marcus looked at her sadly. "He owned it first." The old man placed one hand on Marcus's shoulder. "I don't go upstairs anymore," he said. His voice was dry and soft. "Not for years. Not since the neighborhood changed." Drew grabbed my arm. "We're leaving." The old man's smile faded. "Not all of you." Marcus stood. He moved toward us, but not like himself. Slow. Empty. Like someone walking in a dream. I don't remember deciding to run. I just remember the basement light swinging overhead, Elena slipping on the stairs, Drew pulling her up, and me slamming the basement door behind us. We shoved the kitchen table against it. From below, Marcus knocked once. Then again. Not hard. Patient. We called the police from the front porch. By the time they arrived, the basement was empty. The hidden room was still there. So were the suitcases and photos. But Marcus and the old man were gone. The police searched the house, the yard, the crawl space, even brought dogs. They found a tunnel behind the brick wall that led under the backyard and out through an old storm drain 2 streets away. They also found IDs in the suitcases. People who had been reported missing over decades. Mr. Voss claimed he didn't know anything. He said he inherited the house from an uncle and only rented it out for income. Maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't. We moved out that same night. Marcus was never found. It has been 3 years. I live in a newer apartment now. No basement. No old pipes. No strange landlord with shaking hands. But last winter, I got an envelope with no return address. Inside was a photo of my current apartment building, taken from across the street. On the back, written in Marcus's handwriting, were 5 words. "The house still needs someone." Story 8. When I found the room, I thought I had finally caught a break. I was 27, working overnight stock at a grocery store in Chicago, barely keeping myself above water. My last roommate had moved out with no warning, my rent had jumped, and I had about 9 days to find somewhere cheaper before I ended up sleeping in my car. So when I saw the ad, I didn't think too hard. Private room, shared apartment, quiet tenant, $500 per month. No deposit. That should have been my first warning. The landlord's name was Neil. He was thin, nervous, and smelled strongly of cigarettes. He met me outside the building because, according to him, he was between errands. The apartment was on the 3rd floor of a brick building near the train tracks. Nothing fancy. Narrow hallway, old carpet, buzzing lights. But the room was clean. Small but clean. Neil told me the other tenant worked nights and slept during the day. "You probably won't see him much," he said. "What's his name?" Neil looked toward the closed bedroom door at the end of the hall. "Depends." I laughed, thinking I misheard him. "What?" He smiled too quickly. "Dennis. His name's Dennis. I moved in that weekend. At first, the setup was perfect. I worked from 10 at night to 6 in the morning. I'd come home, shower, sleep, wake up around 2, eat something, and leave again. The other bedroom door was always closed. Still, there were signs someone lived there. Shoes by the front door. A wet towel hanging in the bathroom. A bowl in the sink. Food moved around in the fridge. The first note appeared on my 4th day. It was stuck to the fridge with a tomato magnet. "Please don't drink my milk." "Thanks." Normal enough. Except I hadn't touched any milk. The handwriting was sharp and slanted. I wrote back, "No problem." Wasn't me. The next morning, my note was gone. A new one was in its place. "Sorry. Wrong person. Different handwriting. Rounder. Messier." I stared at it longer than I should have. I told myself Dennis probably had weird handwriting, or maybe a girlfriend came over, or maybe I was exhausted from night shifts and making something out of nothing. That's how people ignore red flags. They build explanations around them until the explanations feel safer than the truth. A week later, I heard him for the first time. It was around 2:30 in the morning on my day off. I was in bed, watching videos on my phone, when I heard the front door open. Keys jingled. Footsteps entered the apartment. Slow, heavy, then something dragged across the floor. Not furniture exactly, more like a duffel bag full of wet clothes. I sat up. The dragging sound moved from the living room to the hallway. Stopped outside my door. My breathing went shallow. Then someone whispered, "Not this one." The footsteps continued to the other bedroom. The door opened, closed. Silence. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I knocked on Dennis's door. No answer. I knocked again. "Hey, I'm Alex. I don't think we've actually met." Nothing. I tried the handle. Locked. That evening I texted Neil. "Can you ask Dennis to keep it down at night?" He was dragging something around. Neil replied almost instantly. "Dennis is quiet. Don't bother him." That was it. No apology. No question. A few days later, I found another note. This one was on the bathroom mirror. "Are you new?" The handwriting was different again. I took a picture and sent it to Neil. He didn't respond. That night, I stayed awake with my phone in my hand. At 3:11 a.m., the front door opened. Footsteps. Dragging. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my hands trembling, as I fumbled for the small lock on my bedroom door. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was conspiring against me. The footsteps stopped outside my room. A soft knock. Then a voice. A woman's voice. "Can you let me out?" My skin went cold. I didn't move. She knocked again. "Please. I'm not supposed to be here tonight." I called 911. The dispatcher asked if I was in immediate danger. I whispered that someone was inside my apartment. While I was speaking, the doorknob turned. Slowly. Left. Right. Left again. Then the woman outside my door began to cry. Not loudly. Quietly. Like she was trying not to wake someone. By the time police arrived, the apartment was empty except for me. The other bedroom door was still locked. The officers knocked. No answer. Neil showed up 20 minutes later, angry and sweating. He unlocked the door for them. The room was empty. No bed. No clothes. No Dennis. Just bare floorboards and one old mattress leaning against the wall. The police looked annoyed, like I had wasted their time. Neil said I was probably tired from overnight work. I almost believed him. Then one of the officers pointed to the inside of the bedroom door. There were scratch marks near the handle. Lots of them. From the inside. I moved my stuff out the next day, but I had nowhere else to go, so I slept in my car in a Walmart parking lot for 2 nights. On the 3rd night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Are you still in the room?" I didn't answer. Another text came. "Please tell me what year it is." I blocked the number. Then another one messaged me. "Neil said I'm the only tenant." I went back to the building with 2 police officers. Neil wasn't there. The apartment was unlocked. Inside, it looked different. My room had different furniture. The living room curtains were green instead of gray. The fridge was older than the one I remembered. And on the kitchen table were 4 rental agreements. Same apartment. Same room. Different names. Different dates. Some were from years ago. One was dated that morning. The name at the bottom was mine. But I had never signed it. The officers didn't know what to do with that. Honestly, neither did I. Neil was eventually arrested for fraud after more people came forward. He had been renting the same apartment to desperate tenants for years. But that explanation only covered part of it. It didn't explain the texts. It didn't explain the room changing. It didn't explain why one woman, named Carla Morris, had signed a lease in 2016 and then vanished from every record after that. And it definitely didn't explain the voicemail I got 6 months later. It was from my own number. My voice, but weaker. Whispering, "Don't open the door when you hear dragging." I still have that voicemail saved. I've played it for friends. They tell me it's probably some app, some scam, some prank. Maybe. But every year, on the same night I moved into that apartment, I get one new text from a number I don't recognize. It always says the same thing. Are you new? Story 9. My roommate Beth told me her family was coming to visit on a Friday afternoon. She said it while washing a coffee mug, staring down into the sink like the mug had offended her. I was 25 at the time, living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Portland, Oregon. Beth and I weren't best friends, but we got along. She was quiet, paid rent early, cleaned up after herself, and never brought drama home. So when she said her family would be staying for the weekend, I didn't think much of it. Sure, I said. How many people? She didn't answer right away. The water kept running. 4, she said finally. Something about her voice made me look up. You okay? Beth smiled without showing teeth. Yeah, they're just intense. That was the first red flag. Not the word intense. The way she said it, like she was choosing a word that wouldn't scare me. They arrived just after sunset. I was in the living room folding laundry when there was a knock at the door. Beth froze in the hallway. She didn't move until the second knock. Then she whispered, "Please don't ask them anything personal." Before I could respond, she opened the door. 4 people stood outside. A man in a brown coat, a woman with gray blonde hair, a teenage boy, a younger woman maybe around Beth's age. No luggage, not even backpacks. They stepped in silently, one after another, wiping their shoes carefully on the mat. Beth hugged none of them. The older woman looked at me and smiled. It was almost normal. Almost. "You must be Rachel," she said. I hadn't told Beth to share my name. "Yeah," I said. "Nice to meet you." The man nodded once. The teenage boy stared at me without blinking. Beth's hands were shaking. Dinner that night was awful in a way that's hard to explain. They didn't do anything obviously wrong. They sat straight. They ate quietly. They said thank you. But every time Beth left the room, all 4 of them turned their attention to me. Not casually, completely, like they had been waiting. The older woman asked, "Do you live far from your parents, Rachel?" I forced a smile. "A few hours." "Do they call often?" "Sometimes." "Do you feel lonely here?" Beth dropped a plate in the kitchen. The sound cracked through the room. Everyone turned toward her. The man stood. Beth said quickly, "I'm fine." He sat back down. No one spoke for the rest of the meal. That night, Beth came into my room around midnight. She closed the door behind her and stood there in the dark. "You need to leave tomorrow," she whispered. I sat up, heart already racing. "What?" "Tell them you have work. Tell them anything. Just leave." "Beth, who are these people?" Her face crumpled. "They're not my family." A cold pressure settled in my chest. Before I could ask more, footsteps creaked outside my door. Beth's eyes widened. She put one finger to her lips. A whisper came from the hallway. "Bethany." She flinched at the name. "Come back to bed." I didn't sleep. At 3 a.m., I heard whispering outside my bedroom door. At first, I thought it was Beth. Then I heard the older woman's voice. "Is she joining us?" The man answered. "She has the shape of someone who could." The younger woman said. She looked at Bethany with concern. "That helps." I lay frozen under my blanket, phone clutched in my hand, afraid even the glow from the screen would give me away. The next morning, I told them I had an early shift. I didn't. I worked remote. The older woman looked disappointed. "So soon?" "Yeah," I said, grabbing my bag. "Emergency coverage." Beth stood behind them in the kitchen, pale and silent. As I reached the door, the teenage boy spoke for the first time. "She's lying." I stopped. The apartment went quiet. The older woman smiled gently. "Rachel, lying creates distance. We don't like distance." I laughed nervously. "Okay, well, I really do have to go." The man moved in front of the door. Not aggressively, just enough. Beth suddenly dropped a glass. It shattered in the kitchen. Everyone looked. Beth screamed, "Run!" I shoved past the man and yanked the door open. He grabbed my sleeve, but I twisted free and ran down the stairwell so fast I nearly fell. I didn't stop until I reached the coffee shop on the corner. I called 911 from the bathroom. The police came. By then, the apartment was empty. Beth was gone. So were they. No clothes missing. No phone. No wallet. Just a note on the kitchen counter. I went home with my family, but the handwriting wasn't Beth's. For weeks, police treated it like an adult choosing to leave. I kept telling them she had been scared. I told them the family wasn't real. Eventually, a detective called me in. He showed me photos of people from missing person reports across 5 states. In several of them, the same older woman appeared in the background. At a bus station, outside a church, in a grocery store parking lot. Always near someone who vanished later. They target isolated people, the detective said. People who moved recently. People with few local connections. They build trust, then they replace the person's life. What does that mean? I asked. He didn't answer directly, but I found out myself 2 months later. Beth's Instagram became active again. New pictures appeared. Beth smiling at a picnic table. Beth standing beside the older woman. Beth holding hands with the teenage boy like they were siblings. The captions were strange. Family is a choice. No more loneliness. She finally came home. I messaged her over and over. No response. Then one night, my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole. The hallway was empty. On the floor was a small framed photo. It was a picture of me and Beth taken from inside our apartment, through the crack of my bedroom door. On the back, someone had written, "Rachel still needs us." I moved the next week. Changed cities. Changed jobs. Changed almost everything. But last month, I saw the older woman again. I was in a grocery store reaching for cereal when I felt someone watching me. She stood at the end of the aisle in the same gray coat, smiling like an old neighbor. Beside her was Beth. Beth looked clean, calm, empty. The older woman lifted one finger to her lips, and Beth looked at me with eyes that begged me not to say her name. Story 10. The first name I saw on the fridge was Martin Keller. It was written on a yellow sticky note in black marker, all capital letters. I didn't know who Martin Keller was, so I barely noticed it. My roommate, Evan, had weird habits. He labeled leftovers with dates. He kept receipts in envelopes. He wrote reminders for everything. By soap. Call dentist. Trash Tuesday. So one random name on the fridge didn't seem strange. Not yet. I was 29 then, living in a small apartment in Tampa, Florida. I worked IT support for a hospital network, which meant long hours, angry callers, and enough screen time to make my eyes ache by dinner. Evan was a quiet guy from work. We weren't close friends, but when my lease ended and his roommate moved out, the timing worked. He was clean, paid bills early, didn't party. Honestly, he seemed ideal. Except every morning, before he made coffee, he wrote a name on a sticky note and put it on the fridge. The second one said Tara Singh. The third said Luis Arroyo. I finally asked about it while pouring cereal. What are the names for? Evan didn't look up from his mug. Just reminders. For what? His jaw tightened. People I need to think about. That was odd, but not enough to push. Then I heard the name Martin Keller on the news. He was a local high school coach who had died in a road accident the same day Evan put his name on the fridge. I remember standing in the kitchen, spoon in hand, staring at that yellow note. Coincidence? That was my first explanation. People share names. Bad things happen. Your brain connects patterns because it wants the world to mean something. A week later, Tara Singh's name appeared in a headline. Apartment fire. 1 fatality. I didn't sleep well that night. The next morning, the note said Luis Arroyo. I called in sick and watched local news all day like a lunatic. At 6:12 p.m., a story broke about a construction accident downtown. The worker's name was Luis Arroyo. No graphic details. No dramatic footage. Just a headshot, a reporter's serious voice, and my own reflection in the black TV screen looking pale and terrified. When Evan came home, I was waiting in the kitchen. Tell me what this is. He saw the fridge. Then he saw my face. For a second, he looked exhausted. Not guilty. Exhausted. You noticed. What are you doing? I'm not doing anything. 3 people are dead. His eyes flashed. Don't say it like that. Like what? Like I caused it. I stepped back. Did you? Evan laughed once, sharp and humorless. No. I'm the only reason some of them lasted as long as they did. That sentence stayed with me. I should have left right then. I should have packed a bag and gone to a hotel, called police, called anyone. Instead, I stayed because fear makes you stupid in quiet ways. You tell yourself you need proof. The names started getting closer. A woman from our building. An old teacher whose name I recognized from Evan's hometown. Then my coworker, Matt. I saw Matt's name on the fridge at 7:40 in the morning. At 8:15, I tore it down. Evan came out of his bedroom so fast I jumped. What did you do? He whispered. I'm not letting you do this. His face drained of color. You don't understand. Put it back. No. Put it back. He wasn't angry. He was terrified. That scared me worse. I crumpled the note in my fist. Evan's phone buzzed. Then mine. A message from my manager. Matt had collapsed in the parking garage before work. He was alive, but barely. Evan slid down against the wall and covered his face. You made it happen early, he said. I couldn't breathe. After that, I stopped touching the notes. I avoided the kitchen in the mornings. I stopped asking questions. I started sleeping with my door locked. But one night, curiosity beat fear. Evan had gone to the store. I went into his room. It looked normal at first. Bed made. Desk clean. Clothes folded. Then I opened the closet. Sticky notes covered the walls. Hundreds of them. Names. Dates. Some crossed out. Some circled. Some marked with times. There were maps too. Newspaper clippings. Printed obituaries. Photos of people I didn't know. Near the back wall was a calendar. Tomorrow's date had one note stuck to it. My name. My full name. I don't remember making a sound, but Evan appeared in the doorway behind me. I was going to tell you, he said. I turned around slowly. My hands were shaking so badly the notes on the wall blurred. What is this? He looked smaller than usual. Hollow. I get them at night, he said. In dreams at first. Then written down when I wake up. If I write the name and leave it alone, it happens when it's supposed to. If I don't write it, it happens sooner. If someone removes it. Stop. I've tried everything. Stop talking. I moved here because I thought new people would break the pattern. My voice cracked. You put my name on a wall. I delayed yours. That broke something in me. I shoved past him and ran. He followed, begging me not to leave, not because he wanted to hurt me, but because he was afraid of what leaving meant. I locked myself in my car and called 911. It sounded insane even while I said it. My roommate is predicting people's deaths. The dispatcher went quiet. Evan came outside, standing under the parking lot light in sweatpants and a faded gray shirt. He held a yellow sticky note against the driver's side window. My name. Under it a time. 11:46 p.m. It was 11:31. I drove. I don't even remember where I meant to go. I just drove through red lights, crying, hands locked around the wheel, checking every mirror like death had a face and might be sitting in my back seat. At 11:43, a truck ran a stop sign 2 blocks ahead of me. I slammed the brakes. My car spun and hit the curb hard enough to burst a tire. Air rushed out. My head rang. But I was alive. At 11:46, my phone buzzed. Evan. I answered without thinking. He was crying. I'm sorry, he whispered. I took it down. What? Your note. I thought maybe if I tore it up after the time passed, it would end. Behind his voice, I heard a sound. A heavy knock. Then another. Evan whispered, There's someone in the apartment. The call cut off. Police found Evan's room empty. Not just him. The notes were gone too. Every clipping. Every calendar. Every map. All of it. The official report says he disappeared voluntarily. I know better. Because 2 weeks later, I got a letter with no return address. Inside was one yellow sticky note. A name I didn't recognize. A date. and below it, in Evan's handwriting, "Don't remove it.